getting you to where you are currently?
Oh, hope. People don't talk about how hard hope is. To live in that place where you're like, it's gonna happen tomorrow, it's gonna happen tomorrow, it's gonna happen tomorrow, is a very hard place for people because sometimes it lets you go, I quit. So I've been doing stand-up since 2009, but I've been acting since I was a kid. And I've been singing since I was a kid. And I have a theater degree. But y'all know me as a comic. So now all this work that I do, and I used to do musicals, I've done children's shows, I sang, I was in an improv group, I did all of these other things, but y'all know me as a comic and a correspondent on the show. So now all of these things I did since I was 7 years old, I have to now reintroduce everybody to. But if I had lost hope and didn't start, because I started doing stand-up because somebody told me I was a comic. It wasn't something that I chose to do. I just happened to be good at something, so someone saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so that was the biggest challenge for me to go, okay, I have a theater degree. I've never been on stage and been myself and said my own words. So getting into stand-up was one of the hardest things for me because I'd never been myself on stage. I knew how to perform. I knew how to find my light. I knew how to plant my feet. I knew all of the trappings. I'd done on stage 900-seat theater with no microphone and sang to the back of a room. I can perform, but not as me. So that was the hardest part of the whole process, going, okay, I have to be Dulcé. I haven't done that before. So that was the hardest part into that. And also listening to my mother. Because a comic told me in 2007 that I should do stand-up, and I didn't listen to him. But I started when I was supposed to. You see what I'm saying? So you get things when you're supposed to, which is always hard to hear. But in 2009, and once again, on unemployment, look at God, and I was taking a sketch comedy class, and I got laid off from a job, and the comic Big Kenny is like, again, come take my stand-up class. And I was like, Unc, I don't have a job. I can't afford the $300 class. And he's like, you're supposed to do this. I won't charge you for the class. And then I couldn't decide what to do, and my mother told me, because Big Kenny had been inviting us to shows for 2 years. He's like, you have to do this, you have to do this. I was like, nah, I'm good. And then my mother came up to me one day before the class started, and she said she had a dream that the whole world was laughing at me. And she didn't understand what it meant. She was like, why are people laughing at my daughter? I don't understand what's going on. What did she do? And then she said she prayed on it, and she was like, oh, my daughter's a comedian. So because of my mother, and I didn't talk about this for a long time because he used to piss comics off. When I took a stand-up class, and my mother supported my choice to do stand-up. A lot of comics don't get that feedback from their family. And so I did it, and so May 12th will be my stand-up anniversary, and if someone can do math, that's what, 14, 15 years? Thank you, gracias. I went to school in Georgia, so I don't know what you want from me. But Gwinnett County, so I did okay, but I can't, the sixes and multiplication are funky. And so yeah, on the 12th, it'll be 14 years, but either a lot of things from just like, I'm not sure. I moved to LA with suitcases. I moved here with suitcases, and now I'm moving, and it's like, so now you have to just go, I will be okay. But for me, the hardest part is hoping is I want to be a mother and have children, and I don't have that in my life. So the same hope that I applied to work, I now have to figure out to apply to this other thing. And that's even harder. Because I knew what to do to be successful in my career. I don't know how to hog tie some man. So, and that's when the Lord gave me my ministry of No More Broke Dick. And so yeah, the hardest part of any of this is hope, because you have to believe in you more than anybody else. And you have to love you more than anybody else.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
How did you get started and make your way to The Daily Show? Because that's like a
dream of mine?
I was born in 1981. I'll start from the very beginning. I grew up, well, actually, I'm sitting here looking at my uncle, who's right here, my Uncle Jay. It's his birthday today, too. 35 years young. Actually, Uncle Jay was truly one of my hugest comedic role models. Uncle Jay would make me laugh growing up until I completely pee my pants. I still do often, but that's more because I had a baby. But I was obsessed with SNL. I watched a lot of Carol Burnett growing up. My dad used to show me a lot of reruns of Carol and the women on SNL and Tina and Amy. And there was something in me that really wanted to do comedy. But I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, so that's not a sensible thing to do when you grow up there. But for some reason, I've got really great parents who are very supportive and supported this insane idea that at 19 I would move to Los Angeles and take classes. So I threw myself into improv, scene study, and I started getting small roles, one at a time, one line, and pilots that never went anywhere. But when I reached my 20s, I was obsessed with The Daily Show. I loved Jon Stewart. I watched religiously. It was my dream to be on the show. I auditioned for the show 3 times over the years. And finally, the 3rd time, I got the call, come out to New York. And this was right after they hired Trevor. And I had just gotten married. And I spent my whole career trying to pick, okay, I can't go on vacation because I might get that Burger King call back, and I got to be there for the work. And I had just gotten married, and we wanted to start a family. And I thought, you know what, it, I'm going to live my life, and whatever happens, happens. And when I got the call to come here, I was 4 months pregnant, living in Los Angeles. I thought, oh boy, do I tell them? Do I keep it to myself? And I would be starting the job 6 months pregnant. So I pulled Jen Flans, who's sitting right over here, our showrunner, executive producer, all things. I pulled her aside after the audition, and she had this look on her face like, oh God, what are you gonna ask me? Like, did you do a good job? What a needy actor. And I said, this is my dream job, and I will move here tomorrow, but you should know I am pregnant. So I'd be starting the job pregnant. And she goes, great, we can talk about it or we won't talk about it, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. And 7.5 years later, I'm here, and my 7.5-year-old is sitting upstairs, probably not watching this right now. He's eating snacks.
I remember my first night on the show. It was wild. I auditioned on, I think, a Friday, and they told me come back 4 days later with a suit because they had no money to pay for the suits. And luckily, I had one suit because I had gotten married a few months earlier, and I came back with a suit, and the day was bonkers. I arrived, and oddly enough, it was the day Crimea was invaded. And I know. We actually know where that place is now. Because I didn't that morning, and I showed up, and I went to this morning meeting, which is an amazing thing at The Daily Show. So many funny, thoughtful people in a room, and I get thrown in there, and it's such a welcoming place. And there's Jon Stewart, somebody I've watched since I was very little. He's very old and decrepit. Also very short, small man, wise beyond his years, but many years. And we were talking about Crimea and all of these things, and they're like, Jordan, you're going to do a chat. You're going to do that tonight? We're going to talk about this? Let's go. And you brainstorm some ideas for the chat. And I remember they bring me into John's office like right after the meeting. And I'm very nervous. I don't know how this day works. And we sit down, and John starts talking about not only what happened, but essentially he's talking about the commentary that's been written in the morning about what already happened in that room. And I'm sitting across from him with a few other people. Jen Flans is over there right now, EP showrunner. She's in that room as well. She's the best. And there's a reason these shows can still run like they do with a different host every week, and it's because of the team that we have here at The Daily Show. And I remember he's talking about all these things with Crimea, and I just keep thinking, I don't know where Crimea is. I don't know. And then we usher off and we brainstorm jokes and bits around the Crimea invasion. And it's fun. It's a wild day. The chat comes up and you go into a rewrite right before you come on out there, and you go one last time over it. And the process for a chat, essentially the idea of this chat was John is throwing to their first-time correspondent who's in Crimea, and he's overwhelmed by the experience. Truth in comedy, it's always the best way to go. And I remember in the rewrite, you're in this small room, and you're throwing jokes out there, and John opened up of like, how would you react here? And I said, I'd say like, I don't want to disappoint you, Dad. And it made him laugh because that's how I was feeling in that room at that moment. I don't want to disappoint you, Dad. And he was like, that's good. I'm like, that was the first joke I got on the show. And he was like, all right, we ready to do this? And you don't waste time at The Daily Show. When you like print the script, it's like, great, we're on in 20 minutes. And so he comes out, I go back, my brain is spinning. I've been doing comedy and entertainment for 15 years, but never had a break anywhere near this. Been living in poverty up until this point. I'm like, holy shit, I'm on The Daily Show. I'm about to be on The Daily Show. I'm looking through the script. John comes out. I'm right back there, and I'm looking through the script. He says, like, we have something special happening today. We have a new correspondent. We don't have that very often. I'm getting nervous, and Born to Run starts to play, which was the song he always played before he came out. And then he's like, you guys ready for a good show? And they say yes. He says, welcome to The Daily Show. And he runs back, and we just had this little one-on-one moment. He just says, don't fuck it up. And I remember, like, he came back out there, and right back there, like, tears. Because it was so much. This industry it's hard, it's tough, and you're rarely in such supportive rooms like this. And for every break that you get, 10 other people don't get it who are worthy of that exact same break. And in that moment, I was like, there's so much emotion right now in this space. And I remember like tears. I'm like, you can't cry, you're on TV in 3 minutes. Pulling it all together, coming on out, and nervously doing my first chat from right over there. So to get a chance to be here on a day like today with you guys and share that, it's real special. Thank you.